What's good, y'all? It's your boy Dave B. You're watching Beyond Astrology. Thank y'all for being here. So we're gonna jump right in talking about Neptune moving out of Pisces into Aries and what that actually means. Now, Neptune is the planet of imaginations, creativity. It's this divine connection. Great grandma type energy where you getting all that good nurturing. It's the high octave feminine energy, right? But you got that moving into Aries. Aries is the sign of war. You know what I'm saying? It's just straight up. It's about passion, it's about motivation, it's ruled by Mars. So, but it's powerful in the sense of what you're going to see is a lot of people who have a strong belief in self and people who have a weak belief in self, right? The weak belief in self is the people who are going to fall for anything. These are the people who are going to be sporadic, kind of doing any and everything, moving all crazy and stuff like that, not really with any true direction. And the thing about it is they'll convince themselves that they're doing the right thing or what's important, but a lot of like honestly, what you're going to get is people who get basically caught up in a delusion. So that what they're fighting for isn't authentic to them. So what'll happen is they might end up being the catalyst for chaos. They might end up going real far in something that they don't even believe in themselves, or they don't realize until it's later on down the line, and they're like, "Damn, I've been fighting the wrong fight." And see, one thing you got to understand when it comes to the way this world has been constructed is that a lot of people are following suit to that because of their lack of awareness of, first of all, who they are. But everything in this world, you got to understand, is in reverse. So a lot of the things that you think is right are actually spiritually wrong or spiritually go against what's natural to, what's important for you to explore. It's just even down to like, a lot of people think, okay, like I guess the best example would be how the education system is constructed, where a lot of people are, you go through school and stuff like that. You think you're learning the important things, which you're really learning. Some of it is important, right? You're learning basics to certain concepts, but it's like you get to a certain point in school where you're learning more so how to be the best employee. You're learning how to be, a functioning member of or a contributing member, I should say, to society on the base level. You know what I'm saying? Like, even if you was to go all the way through education, whether you got your diploma or you go all the way to getting your degree and stuff like that, right? You're still, if you don't have a mind that can think outside of just the task at hand, you are basically gonna only go as far as being the best employee, maybe a manager. You know what I'm saying? Maybe, the what makes individuals push beyond that is their creativity, the things that get nurtured outside of school, right? Going through life experiences, wisdom, traveling, interacting with the world in a certain way, creating art, but also consuming art and critically thinking about it, right? Um, Even down to like understanding like a lot of times like what I'm starting to see is like a lot of the issue it's a lot of it's layered, with anything else in this world, it's layered. So a lot of the issue, people talk about the literacy issue, right? People are they say, oh, that people aren't intelligent. Now aren't it's not that people aren't intelligent, it's just when you think of the consumption of social media at ages that are too young to really have your own perspective or mind on things. Like anybody being exposed to things too early, their mind hasn't developed to be able to, first of all, distinguish between what's real and what's not, right? Because that's what they say about young children getting introduced to certain movies and media and stuff like that. It's like they don't know how to distinguish between what's real and what's fantasy or imagination. Just all different kinds of development mentally, I don't know the right phrasing, but I'm just trying to get the point out. But the mind development, their mental development isn't at a state that could handle the stimulation and the content that's being delivered online and stuff like that, right? So being that people are being introduced to those different things so young, it's kind of causing it's like weird. It's like an acceleration, but also a delay because they don't know how to process the information that they're receiving. So it's accelerated because they're getting introduced to concepts that are way beyond their comprehension. But because it's beyond their comprehension, there's delays in the processing of it. So they're it's like children are sponges, right? The human mind is honestly a sponge because even as an adult, like you have a better defense system, but some adults are easily influenced as well. Some adults will just believe anything. Again, next time you dealing with an adult that watch the news, just listen to how they speak about the world. Anything that they're watching, they're basically regurgitating. And that's kind of the main issue. It's not so much that the content is the problem. I mean, in some cases, but it's people's ability to discern, it's people's ability to comprehend, to formulate their own thought. Like that to me is the most terrifying thing about the discussion around like this new age and technology and stuff like that, even AI. It's people are losing their ability to formulate how they think and their perspective and their feelings towards what it is that they're experiencing. If every time you go through an experience, a person is running a chat GPT to give them a synopsis on how they should feel, again, the problem with that, people looking to these AI chatbots as therapists, is that what makes a therapist special, or even again, even when you watching a video like mine, right? What makes it special is human engagement, like human the way the human mind works to be able to gather many different experiences and package them through communication in a way that can introduce concepts beyond what has already been said. Like every human has the capacity to come up with a phrase or a concept that, yeah, nothing new under the sun. It might be a concept that we all familiar with, but the human mind's ability to get creative and mash different elements together to produce something that hasn't been introduced to the world before is the magic of being human, and why AI could never replace the human mind technology. You get what I'm saying? The human mind is the greatest technology ever. That's I stand firm in that. Now, that being said, you got a lot of people who are afraid of AI, not willing to learn more about it to be able to use it in a way that's I don't want to say competitive, but you got to think of it like if you're not aware of the technologies will become your basically your controller. They will control you by you not knowing how to control it or utilize it to your best benefit. It's like this is like you got to think of it like we are now in a new age of spiritual warfare where at one point it was like the battle was more so very much internal. Now there's so many different tools externally that could affect how you operating, that you got to kind of know it inside out. You got to be like on your warrior shit already. Again, this Neptune and Aries energy ain't no joke. Same thing with Saturn going into Aries later on in February. These things ain't no joke. Like there's going to be people who get left behind and people who become the ones that pave the way. And by left behind, what I mean is when things completely flip, because there's all kinds of discussions about the middle class disappearing basically, job security, right? Again, being able to utilize technology to take the skills you already got and add to it, enhance it, get to the next level to be able to become lethal in the space of knowing how to use your mind, knowing how to protect yourself. Because like that's what it really comes down to. Spiritual warfare is not about trying to, protest in the streets and rebelling, mindlessly trying to burn the structure down, burn the system down. Like I feel you, but you got to think strategically. There's not enough people on the same page to go head to head with a system that's already been in place for X amount of hundreds and thousands of years, right? And I say thousands, I'm, exaggerating, but however long this system has been in place, we got to think more strategically. And honestly, my solution is to create alternatives which look like learning the skills to create our own versions of what we need to create in order to be sustainable. You know what I'm saying? That's like, but presenting it in a way in which we can be collaborators, right? Not working with, and when I say collaborators, I don't mean like, on some like, docile shit. I just mean, again, but defending ourselves comes in more forms than guns and violence and chaos. But because the problem with guns and violence is chaos is like, okay, it's two things, right? One, once you burn everything down, do you have the skills to rebuild? One, plus on top of that, the damages and losses that would incur after all of that bloodshed or whatever it is that you think you finna go head to head with. After that, is that worth, like, I'm not gonna say, freedom is not worth that, but I'm just saying like it's kind of like when you think of like the Vietnam War, where at a certain point it becomes like, damn, is it even worth it to try to like go this direction to get what we want? You know what I'm saying? I don't think people are thinking in that case either. But at the same time, it's like, because the thing is, we are the people, but a majority of people are kind of locked in with the thinking of whatever the system is. And when it comes down to it, the common mind is going to always lean and veer off to the side of survival, which if you're benefiting from a system, meaning they're telling you, hey, we got the housing structure, we got this for your kids, for this, da, da, da. They're gonna choose the thing that's already in place. That's why you get a lot of people who move like agents, even though everyone can collectively agree that they don't like how the government is operating. You know what I'm saying? You got people who still to this day believe in voting when voting has never created solutions for the problems that we've been complaining about. It don't even make sense. Like any system that cared about its people would, instead of being divisive and try to split y'all in two, would always be looking to come together for the best solution to the actual problems at hand. Niggas going back and forth on whether weed should be legalized. My nigga, it's people who do not have homes. It's people who are suffering, dying in the street because they can't afford basic healthcare. You know what I'm saying? And it's like those types of discussions and stuff like that that are kind of like no brainers to a person who is like, hey, if a system really cared, they wouldn't require somebody to pay for something that should be a right. Like you have a right to live. You shouldn't be denying medicine because you can't afford it and stuff. Like, you know what I'm saying? And like you can get into the technical because again, some people will come up with the logic and be like, oh, well, point blank, point blank the way it's operating shows you already what type of time it is, right? Where the ones that benefit are the ones that got it. The haves and the have-nots suffer. And whatever we can do to keep this illusion running, because we need people incentivized to keep this shit running. We need, we want to control how this is done, this, that, and the third. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, that's a different conversation, but it's relevant because when we talk about Neptune and Aries, we talk about revolution. You know what I'm saying? But in previous revolution, I think what was it? I don't know what, I don't want to sound ignorant, but whatever revolution it was happening during this type of these type of energies. So this is what we got to think. Now, a lot of times what happens though, it's a lot of opportunities for fabricated situations and scenarios, you know what I'm saying? Fabricated things. Again, the essence of Neptune and Aries is about there's a lot of things that are going to be presented as in you should believe this. But at the end of the day, it's about believing in self. Like you know, not so much in a selfish way, but understanding that you have to operate from a place of alignment, right? So there's two ways that this discussion is going to happen. Um, and I'm gonna do my best to kind of just navigate it in a way that's clear. Um, there's the aspect of this that's external. So, like I was just talking about with the government systems and things like that, but then there's also the internal. And I kind of want to kind of steer into the internal first because I think that's the most important. So, like I said before, belief in self. Right now, you have to be a warrior when it comes to the things that you want to manifest in your life. You have to be a warrior about it. It's no more half stepping. It's no more debating on whether or not what you have to offer to the world is worth it, or whether or not it's something that because at the end of the day, you're either gonna do it or you're not. Now, Saturn, so Neptune and Aries, we're gonna start with that. Neptune and Aries brings a certain fire and passion to take your creative endeavors and manifest them, right? But also it can make you very reactionary towards things that kind of trigger your delusions about yourself, about the world around you, and things like that. So, you know, high octave use of this energy is going to be you tapping into your passion in a way that allows you to, basically fight against the things that you've been, self-doubt aspects is the best way I could explain it. Any forms of self-doubt, like this is not the time to be questioning who you are at the moment. Hopefully you know who you are. Honestly, the people who pass the test are the people who know who they are at this point. And the thing about it is, this is not to say you're going to be void of fear. You're still going to have fear of different things. Again, there's always a fear of the unknown, but this is where faith and imagination kind of play into part. This is a very powerful time for those who get it, because with Saturn also coming into Aries, there's this ability to get serious to the point of knowing, okay, this is the structure that's going to be appropriate to actually support my imaginations, right? We had this combination in Pisces, but the issue with Neptune in Pisces was thriving, but Saturn in Pisces was kind of us developing the internal structure to be able to be be able to hold the willpower. Because if you think about like fire, a lot of things, like when it comes to fire, fire needs a place to be held in. Like if you think of a fireplace, right? Literally, fire needs something that can hold it. That's the thing with water as well. Like when you think of water and like the different elements, water needs a container, fire needs a um kind of like an outlet, honestly, more than a stuff something sturdy. Fire needs an outlet. Water needs a container. You know what I'm saying? So when it comes to when it comes to like how this energy played out from Pisces going into Aries, it's almost like in Pisces, we had all the access to imagination and creativity, but we had to come together to understand the emotional structure of what it is we was even trying to construct. Pisces is that energy where it's like, I just don't have the words for it. Again, lack of a container. But this is where the outer planets kind of play off of each other, because we had Uranus in Taurus, which could have created the opportunity for you if you followed your individuality enough. It would have led you to, if you valued it, it would have led you to start to become, to again, create some kind of grounding or sense of foundation, right? Because, like, but this is still happening internally. Taurus is like being, again, creating a container for that special creative energy coming through from Neptune, right? Where because your individuality was the base, you had, it was like you could pour in that creativity and that imagination into your individuality. So this made you, this gave you all the ideas. And again, I'm speaking from the perspective of the visionaries, the innovators, the people who really going to push the world forward. These videos, like, I understand it's like kind of like the 1% almost. Like, I feel like the type of shit I'm talking about is not really, it's not really the common person not gonna stumble across this, you know. Anyway, that's not important. But my point is that's kind of where you are, right? Majority of the world, though, depending on where they are at, as far as their awareness of what's going on and their knowing of themselves, a lot of people didn't know to harness this energy this way. They didn't know that, oh, my individuality needs to be put on the forefront. So, again, this is kind of the greater issue with the 98% of the world, or 99% of the world, where they're just scrambling, running around with no intentions, no sense of self. They're just following whatever's going on the news. They just following whatever their friends say, whatever this person say, their parents say, whatever. They not actually thinking for themselves. And the further we get into this energy, the more and more you're going to see the separation from those who have it and those who don't. Now, it's kind of weird because a lot of times the misconception is that if you into the spiritual side of things, that you lose touch with reality. Now, that to me is part of the 99% of folks because they're just looking for another religion. They're just getting into another dogma. They're just getting into another loop that keeps them sedated in whatever space that they can't quite get in until they learn the things they need to learn to get past that loop. There's the people, and again, this is what I'm saying is people like you and me, we not devoid of struggles, but we navigate conflict differently than mass majority of people. A lot of people give up. A lot of people give in. So whatever it is that's pressing them, they fall into that. Like you ever met somebody who, when you met them, it's like they was cool, but then time go on, y'all kind of don't talk for a while. All of a sudden they pop out and they are heavy into religion. Like, I mean, like, yo, religion saved me, da 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 da. Like, I don't do, that to me is jarring, but it kind of I started to understand what it was. Something in their life they went through was so traumatic that it thrusted them into needing something to hold on to. So they grabbed the first thing that they could, which is usually the thing that their family was already into. That was again, it's like if you think of like marketing propaganda, the way the human mind works is that like, when you're being advertised something, right? The advertisement from your conscious mind is not actually what they're targeting. They're targeting your subconscious mind. So when you're in a scenario in which, say, something happens and you are trying to get a solution for that thing, the first thing on your mind be that commercial that you always remember in the back of your head that it just became again dormant. All of a sudden when that situation happens that triggers you to be like, oh yeah, I know the perfect thing I could go to. It's that company that had that one jingle. How'd it go? Oh yeah, that's it. I'm gonna Google that and order that right now. Like it's the subconscious mind that really, like, for instance, you could watch a million McDonald's commercials and be like, man, turn this bullshit off. But when you driving from work and you got all kinds of stress on your mind and you just hungry, all of a sudden you're like, man, fuck it, I'm gonna go to McDonald's. Like it's like an instantaneous thing because you like, oh yeah, they do got that. I remember that commercial with that Big Mac. I'm gonna just go real quick and just get me some fast food. This is the type of stuff like that marketing and advertisement do. They're not necessarily targeting your conscious mind to where once you watch it, you like, oh, I'm gonna go get a burger right now. It's the subconscious mind. When you hungry and the first thing on your mind is the jingle to McDonald's, boom, all of a sudden you there. Or you on DoorDash, like, oh, quick. You get what I'm saying? So that to me is like how they do one thing is how they do everything. That's how religion religion get marketed to me. Like it's like it get marketed as the solution to when everything in your life going to hell or going to shit, I should say. And then a person gets scared, and when they are scared and they need something to fix their spiritual issue, they go to the solution that they think is going to get that they think they're going to get through whatever's been mass marketed to them, which is, hey, just get into a religion, or just get into this, or just get into that, whatever it might be. A lot of people got to drugs because they needed something to help them deal with the world and the issue, right? But when drugs get out of hand, they become addicted, and then they go through crazy trials and tribulations through life. The only thing they know to cling to next is a Bible or something like that, so on and so forth. You know what I'm saying? I'm just, y'all know how I go with me. I start rambling. I start yapping. But my point being, Neptune and Aries is kind of bringing that back forth, or it's kind of presenting a situation where, again, a Neptune and Pisces, although Neptune co-rules Pisces, it still was grounds for people to get lost in delusions. So even delusions about yourself, a lot of self-doubt, a lot of confusion, a lot of fog, just naturally, because Pisces is kind of that, it's an elusive energy. It's like it kind of keep you in the in between. But see, this is where Neptune and Aries kind of also meets where we are as far as the other transits. Like we got the sun in Aquarius, which in followed by the stellium. The key thing about all of that energy to keep in mind is that Aquarius is all about making up your mind. And we need to make up our mind at this point. Like, this is the point. Like, you have to make up your mind about how you're going to become the architect. Like, Capricorn, being at its internal forms of Saturn, is more about blueprinting and figuring out what's the most efficient way to get this done, right? Let's design a system that we can follow that'll help support what we're about to embark on as far as a mission, whatever it is. But the actual execution comes, in my opinion, from Aquarius, which is the actual architect. So they're going out and they're constructing they're organizing and constructing the actual system. They're actually creating the framework for how we should operate. And then again, it's an air sign, so it's mentally. So even in that case, it's not even necessarily the time to feel, because you might feel like I just got to do something. This is not still not the energy for necessarily doing. It's still the winter time. We are coming out of the previous cycle, right? Still, we are about to enter into an eclipse season. So you got to really be mindful of that as well. Hold on. You got to be mindful of that as well. We're entering into an eclipse season. That's happening in February. So there's still something that we have to, like, eclipses to me are like uh ends of a chapter. So if you think of like a cycle, like a 9-year cycle as like one big book, your life is the series, but these 9-year cycles are like um books within that series, right? So each Saturn return almost feels like um an end of a chapter in a sense, right? Or yeah, kind of like but anyway, I don't want to get too lost into the analogy. My point being, this 9-year cycle is like you wrapping up a book, but each, when we got eclipses and stuff like that, or like you know, again, I don't want to get too lost in the analogy, but these are like chapters. So think of this as like a chapter for that we're starting. We starting like kind of like chapter one, right? And the thing about it is the eclipse season is like a period of time, but then whatever happens after until the next eclipse is almost like part of that same chapter. So we starting this eclipse now in this season, but then in Leo season we're gonna have another eclipse. That's like a whole like chapter within maybe a book in a larger series, if you will, right? Just kind of, follow what I'm saying. My point being, whatever you think you're about to embark on now isn't necessary. This isn't necessarily the starting point of it, but this is the what they call it, the prelude or the prologue or whatever it is it happens before the epilogue. I don't know if that happens at the end. Whatever it is, this is the warm up to that. This is giving you the warm up. This is giving, not even a warm up though, but yeah, in a sense, it's the warm up of, this is what you need to know about the story before you jump right in. So what you're gonna have is a lot of people right now, again, distracted, heavily distracted, right? A lot of people down on themselves because all of that false steam that they had, that false energy that they had when they thought it was January 1st and it was the actual new year. A lot of people, all of that energy is wearing off and they're realizing, damn, there's still a lot more I don't understand about what I want to actually do to get started. So if you had a false start, you're gonna kind of feel that a little bit. You're gonna feel like a stutter step, like, oh damn, maybe I need to pull that back and reconsider this, or maybe I need to like construct and formulate this better, right? If you had a really good idea, you kind of opened yourself, you might have exposed yourself and get that idea taken because you presented it a little too early because it wasn't fully formatted, right? It wasn't fully developed. So give yourself enough space and buffer to develop it. Now, you're going to get all the answers you need in February. That eclipse going to come action packed with a lot of information that's going to provide you the actual, oh, this is the method I need to take. This is the mentality I need to move and operate with. All the pieces are still coming together. right? And that's one of the benefits I find from Neptune and Aries, but also Saturn and Aries. You got to think about it like these are all your tools. Astrology is a tool. So when you understand your tools, where things are going, and kind of like what part of the cycle certain things are in, then you can fully understand how to use these things. You got to keep in mind Saturn was already in Neptune at a certain point. I mean, Saturn was in Neptune. Saturn was already in Aries at a certain point. It retrograded back to Pisces. It just went direct not too long ago, and it's making its way back to its original position. Meaning, if you were to think of like, say you had a gun and you empty the clip, you have to reload it before you could hit the clip again. I mean, before you could pull the trigger again. A lot of y'all pulled the trigger, but you ain't had no clip inserted. Or you still had the empty clip in. And that's a representation from the old mentalities and ways of doing things that you thought made sense. Now it's a whole new way that makes sense. Now, Saturn and Aries, Saturn don't necessarily like to be in Aries, right? So Saturn and Aries is going to have to understand how to be more practical about its passion, how to make it, how to slow it down enough to make sense, but be courageous enough to keep moving. You get what I'm saying? So people going through their Saturn return, don't worry, I'm gonna make a video for that because it's a little different. This is just kind of in context to Neptune and Aries. Saturn got all the information that can help support and make the imagination that you come up with make sense, right? But you have to be patient enough. You have to be patient enough. It's like you have to move with urgency, but be patient enough to let life catch up to where your vision is taking you. Our visions and what we're inspired by always extend further beyond. That's what I'll be saying when I said fire need an outlet. Fire always gonna like flash something further than its reach. But you can't touch fire. You gotta let fire catch up. Like you gotta let it catch up or cool off. So think of like your brand new idea, your your creative idea that you're like, oh yes, this is the next big thing for me. Fresh out the oven, you can't interact with it yet. You have to let it cool off, right? You could touch it with oven mitts, but even that, you got to take certain precautions. You got to move slow. You move too fast, you will burn your hand, right? Burn yourself. So don't burn yourself by trying to move too fast. Again, I understand you might be excited to get that creativity out, and the world gonna pressure you in certain ways to feel like you got to keep up with the we it's dropping now. You got to post every day. You got to do this. You got to do that. But this is what my point was as far as, first of all, having a mind of your own, thinking for yourself, believing in yourself first, but then also having a conviction. Um, having conviction, that's part of that Neptune and Aries and mixed with Saturn, right? Because see, and that's another thing too. The more you move in this way, the more you're gonna build that. But what I was gonna say was alignment. And that kind of goes in, that follows suits with what I was saying about it being a year one. Everybody been saying about it being a year one again. This is about self. This year is about getting self, putting self first. And this doesn't mean you have to be an asshole to the people who love you. This doesn't mean being selfish and inconsiderate to those who care for you or that you are supposed to be caring for. This means that the conversations that need to be had with those who want to stay in your life gotta come to the degree of, hey, are we aligned? If we're aligned, then our partnership, we are as one in a sense, right? Respectfully, because we also have to acknowledge our independent individual differences, right? But that's like another conversation. But in concept, right? Those who are partnered with you, y'all need to be on one page, one accord. We are as one when we operate within the context of whatever our partnership is. So if that's a relationship, we are as one when it comes to love matters, how we're going to care for each other, what we choose to do as a unit. If it's business, we need to be on one accord with what the overall or overarching goal of our business is, what we're selling, what we're producing, and how we're going to split the profits. Like we got to be on one accord. And see, this plays into kind of like a greater sense because there's opportunities there to connect with all this Aquarius energy. But more importantly, what's going to be there for a long time, which is Pluto, which is transformations and things like that. Now, Pluto, don't get it messed up. All this Aquarian energy, even though Aquarians get labeled the humanitarian, it's not an altruistic energy. It's not a kumbaya energy. It's still ruled by Uranus. It's still an energy very rooted in what makes sense. It can have an awareness of the collective, an awareness of the network, but it's about functionality at the end of the day, efficiency at the end of the day. It can get cold. Representation right now, we in Aquarius season and we got ice storms. You get what I'm saying? So it's not about thinking of community as a um people sometimes can frame community as a retreat from their responsibility to sustain their own life, be who they need to be, go out in the world and actually put in work, overcome their internal demons and stuff like that. Community not gonna save you from none of that. The things that are advertising themselves like they will are cults. And you're gonna see a lot of that. People, again, delusions, a weak sense of self, easily impressionable, and put yourself in situations in which you become docile. Life is always going to move around you. Neptune and Aries, especially, you must think for self. No matter what you're connected to, you have to think for self. Even in those one-on-one partner, again, are we in the same accord? Although we might make an agreement, you have to also have a sense of self to know when it's time to have a conversation because there might be certain things that we didn't discuss in the guidelines, or maybe we did discuss in the guidelines, but sometimes lines get crossed, miscommunication happens, it's a thing. But you have to be willing to speak up. You have to be willing to be like, wait a minute, hold on, hold on. You said I was going to get this percentage of the profit, but I only got this percentage. Can we review that? Again, you don't have to blow up the spot. You don't have to go to war on some toxic area shit, but you have to have conviction and you have to know what you're getting and know what you're exchanging in return. You get what I'm saying? And that even goes down to how you operate again, because like a lot of people freaking out about that TikTok clause that's like, oh, we own your content, we're training our AI. Look, going back to what I was saying about AI, like, niggas be panicking about the wrong shit. That's the least of y'all worries. They already got a lot of y'all stuff. Your stuff are already being used to train AI. But with the next kind of iteration of like understanding the game that we in is knowing how to protect your intellectual property if you're a creator of any kind, right? How you protect your intellectual property will become part of the guarding the part of the next part of what you need to take into consideration. For my artists, for my entrepreneurs, my content creators, that's the next thing you need to be researching, doing extensive research on how can I protect my IP? Because intellectual property, if you remember, I was talking about the importance of this back when Uranus was in Taurus, getting into Taurus and throughout Taurus, your individuality being the greatest resource. This means, again, IP. Instead of worrying about, oh, I don't want to post on TikTok, right? Because I'm scared somebody going to take my content and use it to train the AI. You need to figure out how you can combat that, not by hiding from the smoke, but how can you get back into the game in a way that, but do it again, not hiding and ducking from the smoke, but protecting yourself and getting equipped to be able to handle the war head on. Like, I know it's like, damn, nigga, it's just TikTok. I'm not saying that the war is on TikTok, but what I am saying is like, TikTok is just an example, and it's a small case of that. But we see that being reflected in all these platforms that we use. Now, these platforms are good tools because they allow you to mass communicate, but that's going to change soon. And we already see like how AI is being used in these spaces to create, what people, oh, it's AI slop, or again, even down to deep fakes. It's getting so deep that you might have to protect the IP of your image. You know what I'm saying? Like that's just something to consider. Like We at a time right now where like if you really want to like we have to think outside the box for real, for real. Like we have to think of like and see the way I'm thinking is, you know, the thing about Saturn and Aries and Neptune and Aries, that's the thing. It's like this is bringing you got to be somewhat vigilant about who you are in relation to the world as well. A lot of people I feel like are just hung up on the wrong things. A lot of the world's still trying to go viral. You get what I'm saying? A lot of people still trying to be content creators, but in a sense of like they're not adding no value to the ecosystem. You know, a lot of people are going to find themselves in compromised situations because they wasn't preparing or focused on the right things at the right time, and they waited too long. And then when they realized that we've been pivoted off of trying to be a content creator, the market is already, and when I say the market is saturated, my thing is that I'm not trying to discourage anybody from pursuing what they want, but you have to think with innovation first. You have to think of, okay, me as a unique individual, what can I use to make what I create worth the effort to consume? Because now it's starting to become a thing where, again, because there's so many people doing the same shit, it's not worth it to consume. I don't have enough nobody has enough time to just click on your video. Is what is your video even about? Like that's why they tell you, you know, do your SEO and put this in the title, put a thumbnail and get this and do that and all these different techniques, right? But you got a million people teaching you all the same things that are being regurgitated. What the world is lacking at this point is original thought, original ideas, creativity in that way. Those are the ones that are going to thrive. Neptune and Aries and so on and so forth. Right now, I'm not going to get into some of the major alignments just yet, but these are just, I'm just really trying to warm y'all up to understand what kind of conversation we having with Neptune and Aries. Stop playing with yourself, like as far as your dreams go. Like, stop playing, you know, and again, creativity in the space in which it comes from. Because also, I didn't even get to this, is like we got Uranus going direct on the third. Now, Uranus been in Taurus now. When Uranus gets into Gemini, we gonna start to see very clearly who knows what they talking about and who just kicking bullshit. We already getting a whiff, but when Uranus goes direct, it's gonna start to become more and more apparent. And that's my point as far as you better start to put together a unique way to express yourself. You better start putting together what it is your sense of belief is, your perspective, because that's the thing, it's lacking perspective. People aren't actually going through things. They're trying to take what they can from what they've been consuming and come up with their own rendition of what already's been regurgitated a million times. You could tell who just selling you something versus someone who actually got something to say because they see something, because they thought about something long enough to come up with a competent response or a competent a packaging of their information, even if they just hit record and freestyle like I'll be doing. It's like you obviously experienced something and got something to share of value that somebody could say, hey, I like this. And it's not about getting a whole lot of views and stuff like that, right? Easy for me to say because I ain't got a whole lot of views and stuff. But that's not the point. You know what I'm saying? Like we got to think differently. And the thing also the thing is too, you got to stay the conviction to stay on your mission instead of allowing yourself to be easily swayed this way or that way. You got to stay on your mission and, but as long as that mission is in alignment with who you really are, because at the end of the day, that's what kind of the essence of Neptune and Aries is kind of revealing. Again, if you following somebody else's doctrine or you doing things because someone else said it was an approval, you might find yourself in the wrong position X amount of years down the line. You might find yourself again right off a cliff. Like, damn, how I end up here? It's because you wasn't thinking for yourself. And this is specifically for people of age to think for themselves. You know what I'm saying? Like again, early as being, if you still, but even in those early ages, like say you 18 or something like that, You know, your parents gonna be on certain things. There's good stuff that you could take from anybody, but you need to be, figuring out how to formulate your own sense of like, first of all, knowing who you are. So your own sense of self, what's right and wrong for you. And then you could work on your vision and develop your, cultivate your purpose out of that and be like, oh, okay, this is actually where I want to go. This is where I want to take things. Because and then that's going to lead you to different things to invest in. Because see, what's interesting too about like the eclipse coming up is a kind of destruction of performative behavior. Again, raw. That's kind of Aries' gripe with Leo is Aries want to do it raw. You know what I'm saying? Leo want to do it for the look. Not all Leos, right? So, but I'm just speaking in general from the differences. Leo need a stage. Leo want to be polished. Leo wants to perform. Aries like, I don't care how I look. I'll get on that stage in sweatpants. I just need the raw feeling with me, and everybody going fuck with it. So and this the thing is like, it's all balanced, but um eventually the North Node going to be in Aquarius. North Node gets into Aquarius. I don't know the exact date. I thought I wrote it down, but I think it's going to be. I'm not sure if it's after the eclipse. Yeah, it's going to be after the eclipse. It's going to be yeah, it's going to be after the eclipse. But that again, and that's my point where you might be trying to start something now. And it's like you don't got all the information yet. You don't even know what kind of tools you got. You don't know how many, you don't know what you got. You trying to build a house. You ain't even got all the right, blueprints yet. Or you got the blueprint. You should have already been constructing the blueprint, but you don't got all the materials yet. So don't start building the house if you ain't got all the materials. You still need to make sure you got what you need. But there's other things you could be doing to prepare to build that house. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. And then this being a fire horse year too, this is not even so much about being a sitting duck. Like you gotta get more mobile, bob and weave. There's all kinds of challenges about to be thrown your way, but you have to be able to get creative enough to work your way out of those things and fight your way through. That's like that Aries energy coming in as well. Creative solutions that come from you not being unrelenting, solutions that come from you being so locked, so focused on what you're trying to start that, again, like Aries is the initiator too, initiator fire. So it's like quick sparks. You got a goal, but you choose a direction to go. If it seems like, oh, you're getting roadblock, okay, switch up. Saturn and Aries don't got no time for you to be sitting there crying about something that you thought was going to work and you invested so much time and I don't believe it'll pivot. It pivot, dry it up, pivot, cry later. Cry once you get the next thing established. Oh, that didn't work. Switch up, pivot. Okay, boom, boom, it's up. Now I can cry. Okay, up, that didn't work. Okay, pivot. I'm on to the next. Okay, now I can cry. Cry after the work is done. And you might find that, damn, it wasn't even nothing to cry about. This is actually a better solution. But that will happen the more aligned you are with what it is you're doing. And a lot of times things don't work, not because we are failures, but because it's not right for us. That's what we got to understand on a divine level. Rejection being protection in a sense, right? So when you try something and it don't work out the way you thought, don't be like, damn, I'm a failure. I should doubt myself. No, I'm grateful it didn't work out that way because that probably wasn't for me. What's for you is already yours. So stop stressing the small stuff. You get what I'm saying? Put some belief into it. Believe that, oh, okay, this shit kind of high key working in my favor. Believe that. It make no sense to believe in the downfall of something. It makes no sense to believe in the negative. You can understand the negative potential to have a frame of reference on what you need to maybe be prepared for. Preparation is one thing, but when people get lost in pessimism and start to assume the worst, I can't trust those people. I'm like, hey, you on your own because life is too precious. and my time is too valuable to be investing it into what might go wrong or what I don't think will work. Or I hate being around people who always talk about what might not work. I respect them though if they actually coming from like a real place and they like, hey, we should just be aware of this. But for the most part, you know what I'm saying? It's like, nah, speak life into yourself at least and those around you. Hopefully you doing that. You know, I understand you want to be aware of the things that go wrong. That's important. I'm not talking shit about that. But if they always come in with a problem and they making excuses for why good things can't happen, they like, oh well, no, like no, this is actually destined to fail. Oh nah, no, get out of the way. You contagious. Get those people up out of here. You know what I'm saying? Again, life is too precious and my time is too valuable. Fuck out of here. So, you know, these are the things that Neptune and Aries got on my mind, and hopefully this is something that can help y'all. You know, I'm open for readings now, but I'm gonna let y'all know in March and April it is going to get busy. So if you've been thinking about it, you teetering, go ahead send me that email, astrology help in the subject line at davebeyond95 at gmail.com because I am going to be busy. I'm developing a lot of new things moving forward. Very excited to share with y'all. And I just want to say thank y'all for just, you know, clicking on play, you know, hitting that like button for me, subscribing if you're new here. Again, this is Dave Beyond, you know what I'm saying, Beyond Astrology, where we dive into all things related to spirituality, esoterics, and of course, astrology and things like that so we can understand ourselves better and therefore put better energy out into the world and all that good stuff. Check out my other channel too, Day Beyond TV, where we're going deeper into, you know, things that actually can help and support entrepreneurs and, you know, hybrid creators is what I call them, which is a multi-hyphenate, uh, multidisciplinary artists and creators who are looking to create business with those different skills and abilities. So if that describes you, go ahead check out that channel, subscribe there, and you know hit the bells for that notification. You know what I'm saying? So we just gonna keep it pushing. Next video coming up is going to be, I think it's going to be the full moon video. We're going to get that knocked out. So y'all are prepared beforehand and got everything y'all need as far as tools to be able to navigate that energy, right? So yeah, anyway, much love. I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.